Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Gabo 6, and we back with another one, man. I'm bringing back the true crimes reaction because, why not? It's not like crimes have stopped being committed. We got the murder of Renisha McBride, bro. Every single time I react to these true crimes, bro, these be like regular, everyday people going through one of the worst experiences, one of the worst deaths imaginable. It's not like they asked for it, right? And typically when I find myself reacting to these contents, the murder suspect is always a neighbor, a stalker, or even a loved one. Believe it or not, that's the real world that we live in, son. 9 times out of 10, when a woman gets killed on one of these platforms, bro, it'd be the person that they said I do to that's out here taking them out. It's backwards, but it is reality nonetheless. So we're gonna get right into it, man. I'm bringing back true crimes. So we're gonna start off with this story.
And wet November night in the Detroit suburb of Dearborn Heights, Michigan.
Eesh.
54-year-old homeowner Ted Wafer was awoken from his sleep at 4:30 a.m. by loud banging and shouting at his doorway. First, the noise came from the side of the house, then from the front door.
I ain't going front, son. If I hear anybody banging on my door in the middle of the night, let's be real. You answering? Are you answering? That's the ultimate get the strap moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's eerie. 9 times out of 10, people ain't answering the door, bro. You knock on my door 2 o'clock in the morning. Yo, my house is for sale, bro. Ain't nobody there. You know, like.
The small house seemed to be surrounded, and he thought, under attack. Someone or multiple people were attempting to break in.
Oh, yeah.
As the disturbance escalated, Ted reached for the tool that he had purchased for exactly this purpose, his shotgun. Holding the gun with one hand and opening the front door with the other, he fired. On the other end of the barrel was not a band of thieves or violent attackers, just a 19-year-old girl. And she was alone.
What?
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin, and this is Just Thought Lounge. At JTL, we take a look at the cases.
I'm not doing all that now, bro. Like, I'm not just opening the door and shooting on sight. That's kind of, I mean, knocking on my door middle of the night is kind of crazy, but you would think there'd be some cognitive thinking during this process when you're not just shooting to kill instantly, bro.
Really make you think. If that sounds like your type of true crime, then you've come to the right place. The case we're looking at today has a few layers. As we peel back each one, we find many ways that this story could have turned out differently. Let's take a look.
I need to know, why was she knocking on the door middle of the night like that? Why his door? And why he shoot to kill like that if it was a woman?
The call came in at 4:30 a.m. from Dearborn Heights resident Theodore Ted Wafer.
Yes. I just shot somebody on my front porch with a shotgun banging on my door.
The dispatcher called out emergency services. They arrived in 2 minutes of the call placed by Ted. Upon their arrival, they reported finding a young woman, already passed away, collapsed on Ted's front porch.
Male thinks he just shot someone on his porch. Then he hung up. We're trying to call back. We're going to send units to back.
Oh, no.
Units responding. We have the male on the line. States he doesn't know this person. Trying to get further.
Somebody down on the porch. Appears going to be a black female.
The young woman is later identified as 19-year-old Renisha McBride. She was a stranger to Ted. It was unclear what had brought her to his door in the early morning hours. By Ted's own admission, he had fired the shot that killed her. Law enforcement took statements from Ted that morning. The first was at the scene when they arrived and captured by audio recording. The second took place at the police station several hours later.
Come over here. Where's your gun
Did you even check to see who was at the door, bro? You didn't look out the window?
I consistently knocking on the door. I'm trying to look through the windows, but every time I look through the windows of the door, it's banging somewhere else. So I open up the door, kind of like, who is this? I got discharged. I didn't know there was a round in there.
Cap. Come on, man. Someone banging on your door middle of the night. Someone's banging on your door middle of the night, bro. You go and grab your gun. You're not going to check to make sure there's a couple of rounds in there? You know what I mean? Or did you think it was here to pump fake? He thought the shotgun was here to pump fake, bro. Gave that girl wings for nothing. You capping. And if she's trying to break in, I guarantee you she wouldn't be trying to make all the noise in the world to wake you up, bro. I mean, I wasn't there. I'm just saying.
Ted's shotgun, a Mossberg 12 gauge with a pistol grip handle, was left on the floor of the hallway inside the front door.
Duty.
He had fired a single but deadly shot. Ted Wafer was 52 years old. He was unmarried and had no children. He was alone in the house when the shooting took place. There was one shell casing left in the shotgun. Additional ammunition was found in the house, tucked away in a bedroom closet. The cover for the gun was located in a different bedroom from where the ammunition was kept. Based upon this assessment, it seemed that Ted had moved around the house, preparing the weapon before using it. Investigators found the main door had been opened by Ted prior to firing the shot. The second external screen door, however, remained closed. The fatal bullet had been fired through it. This screen door had been locked. The autopsy revealed that Renisha McBride died of the shot to the head. She had also sustained a separate head injury. A blood toxicology determined the presence of alcohol. Renisha had been intoxicated. There were also traces of marijuana in her system. When Ted was brought into the station for formal questioning, he did not appear to be under the influence of any drugs or alcohol, but he was not, according to reports, also given a toxicology screen. At the station, Ted reiterated what he had told law enforcement at his home earlier that morning. He awoke to noises, pounding on his doors. Ted claimed that his car had recently been vandalized. He said that his house had been hit a few weeks earlier with paintballs. Laying the foundation of a later formal defense of his actions, Ted noted these incidents, which formed a pattern of escalating damage to his property, though none of these incidents were reported to the police when they occurred.
I heard noises, and it startled me, what these noises were. These banging, prying noises. First on the side of the house, and then front of the house, back to the side of the house.
At this point, are you getting frightened? Is your heart racing? What's going on?
Yes, I have no idea what's happening. It was getting louder. I thought at any time something was coming through the door. It was getting violent.
Despite what Ted characterized as a frightening and violent encounter, he nonetheless claimed to have fired the weapon accidentally. He did not even know that the gun was loaded, a claim that investigators found to be understandably suspicious. A ballistic expert later analyzed the gun and found absolutely nothing wrong with it.
That man wanted to take no accountability once he realized it was not only a girl, but a black girl. All of a sudden, it was by accident. You know what I mean? Like, you heard banging and you heard prying. And it was a headshot, too, bro. Oh, my God, bro. So you pointed it at her head and pulled the trigger, not thinking there was no bullets in there?
The gun fired, it is because Ted Wafer's finger pulled the trigger.
There was one shell casing, so what?
Gun owners.
There was just one in it all the time, or what?
Yes, like I was just trying to explain, I couldn't remember if there was one in it or not. I kept my shells in a separate closet, so I got a little paranoid. A few weeks back, got paintballed, so maybe that's when I loaded it, put it in. I mean, I don't think I mentioned that to you, but I mean, that's what I put one in there or something like that. But I did not realize there was one in there.
Renisha McBride was a cheerful teenager. According to friends and family, she was a very sweet young woman and extremely outgoing. She was quick to offer a word of advice and tried to cheer up those around her. One of Renisha's aunts described how she loved to sing and was constantly cracking jokes. On the evening of November 2nd, 2013, the 19-year-old was hanging out with her best friend, Amber Jenkins. There was not much to do at the McBride household, so the girls decided to play a drinking game. They purchased a bottle of vodka, and over the next hour and a half, the young women took shots. Exactly how many were consumed isn't clear, but when the game was over, half the bottle was gone, and Renisha, according to Amber, was undoubtedly declared the loser. Amber then left the house, but for Renisha, it was not the end of the night. Monica McBride, Renisha's mother, was also at home that evening. And after Amber left, the mother and daughter had an argument. Renisha had not been keeping up with chores around the house, and Monica was not letting it go this time. The argument was not necessarily a new one. Renisha was a well-loved daughter, and her father was known to spoil her. Her cousins later recounted affectionately that whatever Nisha wanted, Nisha got. In this respect, she had been a good kid and a typical teenager. On that Saturday night, unaware that Renisha had been drinking, the disagreement with her mother came to an end when the teenager got into her car and drove from the house.
But what brought
It was the last time that Monica McBride would see her daughter alive.
That's crazy, man.
A short time later, at approximately 1 a.m., witnesses in the neighborhood
You can't take life for granted, bro, no matter what the circumstances are, man. You never know what's gonna be your final conversation with the loved one. You know, and it's crazy too, because sometimes our final conversation is an argument, right? Because we don't know when the clock is ticking and someone is about to die. We don't get to see the future like that. So it's like it kind of pains you. You could see the pain in that woman's face, bro, when she knows that the last conversation she had with her daughter was an argument, and there's no way in a million years she thinking that's gonna be the day her daughter died, man. Like, that's why, I mean, nobody's perfect. We're all entitled to our emotions, but I try not to hold on to shit that I feel like I could get over with, man. Because I always tell myself at the end of the day, in 100 years, none of this shit is gonna matter, bro. Not your perception, not my reality is gonna matter in 100 years. So a lot of the things that we go through emotionally, it's for a short time span. You know, we can't spend our lives holding on to emotions that don't serve us. I say it all the time, son, because you just never know. And I'm not going to lie and act like I knew this shit from the beginning. I had to kind of grow into this mentality, because the older you get, the closer you get to death, you just don't want to think about it. But it humbles you in a sense, bro. When it's just like, yo, like, I don't want to argue with nobody. I don't want to beef with nobody, because you just never know. You know what I mean? You're not thinking a 19-year-old about to catch a headshot from a shotgun, bro. The day you had gotten into an argument with her by someone random, completely random, bro.
Would see her daughter alive.
What brought her to that man's house, though? Because she was lit? She was drunk?
A short time later, at approximately 1 a.m., witnesses in the neighborhood of Dearborn Heights watched as Renisha's white Ford Taurus drove rapidly through the house-lined residential street, made an abrupt swerve towards the side of the road, and crashed head-on into a parked car. Thankfully, there were no occupants in the parked vehicle, but when Renisha emerged from her car, she was visibly bleeding from the head. A break in the glass of the front windshield was likely where her head had made impact with it, though the incident reportedly occurred far too rapidly for onlookers to know for sure. The teenager exited the car and wandered away from the crash site multiple times, only to then return to her vehicle. One witness recounted that she appeared to be in shock, another that she was disoriented and likely intoxicated. Calls were placed to emergency services.
You know what, your young girl, she's drunk. And she's walking back to the car now.
Damn.
Renisha could not be convinced to wait on the response by EMTs, despite the pleas from those at the scene. She wandered off a third or fourth time, but on that last occasion, she did not return. By the time responders arrived, they were told that they were likely to locate the disoriented driver by circling the block. It is unclear if they ever attempted to do so. For the next 3 hours, Renisha's whereabouts remain unaccounted for. Her family believed that she was wandering the streets confused, seeking help to return home. At some time after 4 a.m., she arrived at the home of Ted Wafer, 2.5 miles from where she had crashed her car.
2.5
Ted's
miles?
house looks very similar to her own. The same style of windows, a similar door, and common-looking roof. Before leaving the crash site, Renisha was overheard stating repeatedly that she just wanted to go home.
He was in his house, and he didn't have to open the door. He could have called 911 to protect himself, and if she was seeking help, he could have called 911 to get her help. So I don't think this is justifiable, and I don't think this is accidental.
In the days following Renisha's death, anger and confusion began to mount over the lack of action being undertaken by the Dearborn police. Ted Wafer's name had not been released to the public, but it was known that the shooter had been released without charges. It was difficult at the time to avoid viewing Renisha's death outside of the context of other unjust killings that were also sparking protests and media outrage across the country. Protests calling for justice in Renisha's case took place while the details about what had occurred that night were only beginning to hit the media.
Damn, that's a tough debate, man.
Renisha McBride.
It doesn't make any sense why he isn't here right now, locked up in the cell on some sort of charge of murder, manslaughter, whatever. It is not just. Why is he still at home?
I want justice for my niece. I don't want this guy walking around. He needs to be locked up. He needs to know what he did. He took the life, which was my niece's life. She's 19 years old. She's not here with us. We couldn't even look at her.
Pressure was building on the Wayne County prosecutor, Kim Worthy, to bring charges.
We obviously do not feel that the evidence in this case feels that the defendant acted in lawful self-defense. Lawful self-defense must have an honest and reasonable, not honest or reasonable, honest and reasonable belief of imminent death or imminent great bodily harm of himself or another person, and the use of force that's used must be necessary to prevent that imminent death or great bodily harm of himself or another person.
And so you're saying Mr. Wafer did not have that?
I am saying that we do not believe he acted in lawful self-defense.
Ted Wafer was charged on 3 counts: second-degree murder, manslaughter, and a felony firearms charge. He was released on a $25,000 bond awaiting trial, which was set to commence in July 2014.
But what we all know is that she had been in a car accident and that she sustained an injury. Her face was bleeding, she was dazed, and she ended up a couple hours later on the porch of this man Wafer. We do know that her blood alcohol showed that she was intoxicated. She may have been boisterous, she may have been loud, she may have been noisy.
And the crazy thing is, right, like little plot twist. Now, intoxicated while driving a vehicle. We all know better, but yet at 19, we get how stupid works, right? When you're young, you don't know. But now, if she's in that car and she kills somebody, you know what I mean? If she's in that car and she kills somebody, this is a completely different argument that's happening right now, because now she's not the victim. You know, she's the one that everyone's going to be trying to prosecute because she's 19, clearly intoxicated, getting behind a vehicle. Now, granted, she didn't kill anybody and she ends up dying that same night. And now this guy who ain't have shit to do with nothing. And again, you can't tell people how to respond in fear. It's either fight or flight. You know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm hearing someone going through my window, someone knocking on my door. And granted, you would have hoped he asked the question. But it wouldn't be the first time people shot first and ask questions later. PTSD does work like that, where people rather just make sure they survive before they waste a second, and that second could be their life. Like, it's a tough spot to be, especially if you're that dude who's just chilling in his crib and you know, ends up killing someone that he probably had no intentions of killing that day. But since she came on his property, I mean, what else you expect him to do? It's a tough situation because it's a 19-year-old who was moving recklessly, if we're going to be completely objective, who's moving recklessly and put herself in a situation she didn't have to put herself in. To troop 2 miles away from the crash scene, that's hit and run. You know what I mean? You're just leaving the scene of a crime. Oh, God, bro. And she ends up dying. Like, I always say, life, you're going to make plenty of mistakes. You just hope the mistakes that you make, you could recover from and you could have a second chance from. Unfortunately, this girl did not get a second chance from just a mistake of just being young.
That she attempted to break into Wafer's house. None whatsoever.
As the trial date approached, Ted Wafer changed his story. He no longer claimed that he was uncertain if the gun was loaded and that he shot accidentally.
Look at the eyes in this man's face, bro. My boy looked like he wants nothing to do with 24 hours lockdown. He wants nothing to do with the prison, nothing. He's shook.
He now claimed that he fired the weapon purposefully, but in self-defense. He feared for his life.
That's fair. I mean,
she just wanted to go home. On November 2nd,
I knew it was a cat. You're not grabbing a shotgun.
Miss McBride, injured, disoriented, just wanted to go home. Released this safety, raised it at her, pulled the trigger, and blew her face off.
The state prosecution argued that Ted Wafer wanted a confrontation when he shot and killed. They pointed to previous statements made by Ted that he took the shotgun while mad and angry and full of piss and vinegar to find out what was going on. Defense attorney Cheryl Carpenter said the prosecution left out the fact that the jury cannot find Ted Wafer guilty of murder if it was justified. She said her client was in fear for his life.
Ted Wafer looked like somebody who was out of his mind with anger that night when you watched it. He looked like a man who was confused after the fact. And a man that you heard was in fear for his life. And it was coming at him. They were coming at him. How many times did he say that?
On the front door. Oh, and it is this time he knows. Or he doesn't know, but what he's going through his heart and in his head is it's me. They're coming to get me. Get your mindset in Ted's mind. Ted's mind. What was he going through at that moment he shot? Who here has heard that he shot through a locked door? This is the door he shot through. It's like, is that going to keep anybody out?
Dr. Werner Spitz, a forensic pathologist called by the defense, testified that he believed Renisha McBride had a concussion from the car crash. He added that her blood alcohol level would have caused her to experience a loss of judgment. The doctor also noticed an apparent laceration on Renisha's hand. He told the jury that she may have injured it from pounding on Ted Wafer's door. This evidence seemed to contradict that of the medical examiner, who said he did not observe anything out of the ordinary on Renisha's hand during the autopsy. The testimony pointing to her repeatedly hitting the door was significant. Beyond these statements, there was only Ted's word that Renisha had been violently knocking on his door at all. There was also the hole in the screen door. The defense argued that this could have been created by Renisha attempting to break in. Ted told police that at the point he opened the front door, he noticed that the screen door had been tampered with. Law enforcement, conversely, testified that they assumed the damage to the screen door was created by the shotgun blast and would have been intact before Ted fired. However, there was no way to be certain that the tear in the screen had not been created prior to this, perhaps as part of an attempt to enter the house. Ted Wafer took the stand in his own defense. His demeanor was calm, even sorrowful.
Man, when your life is on
Court
the line.
reporters later recounted that his emotional testimony brought at least one juror to tears. Ted told the jury that he heard pounding and first looked for his cell phone but could not find it. He found a baseball bat. Then there was more pounding on the door. He determined that the bat was not enough to defend himself. He was both angry and panicked when he picked up his shotgun.
Who do you think is out there right now?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Do you think at this moment they wanted to hurt you?
Yes.
Did you think they were about to get in your house?
Yes. I could feel the floor vibrating, the windows rattling. To find out
wanted to investigate this. I wasn't going to cower in my house. I didn't want to be a victim. I opened the door all the way as much as I could.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like if you a man that owns your own home, like you don't run in your own house. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, this is my home. I'll be damned if I get ran out my own crib. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm, like, granted, he doesn't have a family, but if I'm a protector, a provider, like, before I call law enforcement, so I'm making sure I got the strap on me. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. I'm pretty sure at that time people tried to draw a line in the sand between, you know, black victim, white shooter, and go into like historical references where this has repeatedly happened throughout history. But I want to look at this shit objectively and really put myself in this man's shoes. Like, yo, what would I have done? Would I have been any different? I mean, I ain't gonna front, bro. You just don't know. It's easy to look at someone and think of the logical sense of view that, like, yo, I would do things differently. But you honestly don't know until you're in that moment. I mean, he got a shotgun in the crib for a reason. You know, and it's reasons like this. You know, he probably was hoping it wasn't a 19-year-old girl, but there's no way he could have known that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you waking up disoriented. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. There's noise coming down. Like, you're afraid someone might break in. You think I'm gonna run out and call the cops? My crib? Nah, bro.
And as soon as I did that, this person came out from the side of my house so fast. I raised the gun and shot.
Ted characterized the shooting as an extremely unfortunate accident. He was remorseful, but his actions, he said, were justified.
There's no pointing. It's just a reaction, self-defense reaction. To protect myself.
Self-defense reaction to protect myself. You got a lot of buzzwords, Mr. Wafer.
That's how I felt about it.
Well, not that night,
I did
right?
what I had to do to protect myself. We'd ever be here if the EMS showed up for her in the first place.
So this is all somebody else's fault, right?
It's not somebody else's fault.
You're the one who shot her, right?
Yes.
Ask yourself, why did she or they pick my house?
Yeah, I don't know why this was brought to me.
Let's be real.
I didn't go out looking for this.
Let's be real.
The trial lasted 9 days. The jury took less than 2 days deliberating before returning their verdict. Guilty on all 3 counts.
Guilty of murder in the second degree.
Despite Ted's impactful and ostensibly genuine testimony, legal analysts later suggested that the inconsistencies in his story to law enforcement was what led to his conviction. Ted remained largely emotionless throughout the trial and the reading of the verdict. Upon sentencing, he spoke directly to Renisha McBride's loved ones.
I apologize from the bottom of my heart. And I am truly sorry for your loss.
Ted was 55 years old at the time of his sentencing. His lawyer, Cheryl Carpenter, said at the hearing that anything more than 10 years in prison would be a life sentence. Ted was given 17 years.
Leave court today knowing Ted has to do 17 years in prison. It's a death sentence. It's really unfair.
They think 17 years is too long. That's not enough. He should have got life. He would get out and be able to still live at 72. My niece will never even see 21.
Ted appealed the convictions, arguing that he should not have been sentenced for both second-degree murder and statutory involuntary manslaughter for the same crime. This violated the double jeopardy clause because one crime requires the element of malice, and the other is applied when malice is not present. The court agreed with this assessment. He could not be convicted on both charges. While serving his 17-year term, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled to overturn the manslaughter conviction. The decision meant that Ted would be resentenced for the remaining 2 charges. At the resentencing hearing, Ted Wafer again reiterated his regret and remorse for his actions. "From my fear, I caused the loss of a life that was too young to leave this world, and for that, I'll carry that guilt and sorrow forever." Wayne County Judge Dana Hathaway said the prison sentence would not change. 15 years for second-degree murder, plus 2 years for using a gun during a crime, which Ted Wafer had, by that point, already served. Judge Hathaway then explained her logic summarized in a simple statement. You cannot murder someone for simply knocking on your door in the middle of the night. You had choices.
He did.
Ted will be eligible for parole in 2031.
Damn.
And that was the tragic case of Renisha McBride and the conviction of Theodore Wafer. Thanks for watching. I'm Kevin. This is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, this is triggering. This was a good one.
Should we do one of these? Here, do this for a clip show.
I like
Are you
this.
still recording?
Yeah.
Presented well.
I'm new to this is Just Thought
Before we
Lounge.
get cringe. Yo, how crazy is that? 17 years. 17 years for something he didn't ask for something that walked to his front door that he then had to be a part of when he initially had nothing to do with this whole story. This was a drunk night out with friends. This was an argument with mom gone wrong, so I'm going on a night drive. Gets into a car accident, walks up to a random door, and a man who ain't got nothing to do with nothing, you know, he did what fear made him do. You know, it's flight or fight. You know, he could have ran, and maybe if he ran, he's a free man today, and this never happens. But at that moment, you can't tell someone how to respond to fear. There's no rules to this shit. It's like, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to survive. Now, granted, it ended up being a 19-year-old who was out drunk, partying with friends or playing games with friends, and she stumbled on his property, knocking on his door. But like, can you blame the man? I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent. I feel sorry for the loss of a 19-year-old life, but she did everything to put herself in this position. She did everything from driving drunk to getting into a car accident to then leaving the scene to then walking 2 miles away from the scene of the crime to then trespass arguably on somebody else's property, and she gets shot for it. I mean, I don't know, bro. I don't know. But this was very fascinating, the murder of Renisha McBride. Tough. I wouldn't have given him 17 years. I don't think he deserved that. You would have to prove to me that he intended to, you would have to prove to me the plot. Like, granted, you pull the trigger, you tend to kill. Obviously, we know that, but come on, man. Like, this man didn't wake up looking for random people to kill. You know, like, let's act like y'all didn't give him no consideration. Tough. I'm gonna holler at you guys in the next video. We might be in True Crimes Brack, bro. Y'all let me know in the comment section what you feel and what you thought. I'll be back with another video. Mamba out.